Hello, this is Alan again. I'm making video number 5 about my blended path, and the focus of this one is personified deity. And I'm working from notes, particularly this time. I want to be careful to be accurate and word things correctly, so I may be trying to pay close attention to these notes. I've alluded several times to my biggest breakthrough in my previous installments on my blended path videos. And as I reported, I finally arrived at the conclusion that by accepting at least some truth in all beliefs, that and that kind of inclusive idea called perennialism, I could at least logically combine mysticism and other spiritual practices with my Christian faith, with my existing faith. And this kind of formal statement became kind of a cornerstone for me, that perennialism allows my Christianity and my mysticism to mix. But now I suppose it's time to tell what's maybe hardest to explain. And that's how maybe the most seemingly outlandish part of my experience actually is what led to this foundational bedrock that gives me the greatest peace. And a little ironic, perhaps. Arriving at this foundation came through personified deity, and that might be a little bit more of a stretch for people to accept than just the logic of the statement I came to. To put it more bluntly, the message that perennialism allows my Christianity and mysticism to mix, that message came from channeling the divine feminine basically through the image of the Empress on a tarot card. So before reaching that point, I had already taken steps past making practices compatible with my faith, tacking on Bible verses or rewording mantras to be Christian. And I was no longer just taking things captive to Christ, as my wife Kristen had asked me to do. For example, I was meditating to mantras and images of Shakti. Here's one I printed offline. I was doing guided meditations to Gaia and Isis, and I was researching goddess worship online, and at work I had made goddess wheels of the year. First this little one that I had here at work, and then I made a bigger one, and I think I've got a image of that on the website I'm putting together there. So I was expanding in practice in that way. During this time, I had learned from a helpful YouTuber how to bond with oracle cards and tarot decks. And she encouraged forming a kind of personal relationship with the cards. Her videos explained how to set up sacred space and ask questions and really communicate with the cards, or really the archetypes and energies that are thought to come through the cards. Now, people variously think of this connection as being with the higher self, or with spirit, or source, and have different ideas about this. I had started with the Enchanted Map Oracle deck way back before I had the courage to use tarot cards. And after that, I added traditional tarot cards. And as I became interested in goddesses, I added the Kuan Yin Oracle deck, and this is that boxed set here. And these cards focus on the compassionate Buddhist goddess who answers prayer quickly and brings healing to the world. I felt that I had bonded with her, even channeling a few messages directly in meditation without just using the cards. Kind of continuing in this vein, in this kind of practice, I next bonded with the Crystal Visions Tarot deck, and I felt that the Page of Cups, which is featured on the cover of that box, pictured as a maiden, and I felt that energy was connecting with me. The picture shows a beautiful young woman standing in a river bathed in moonlight as she gazes into a crystal ball. And messages seem to be coming very clearly through the cards, sometimes attended by channeled words. Finally, the most dramatic bonding experience came through the Empress of the Tarot of Vampires. And I have a printed picture of the cover of that box here. And similar to the previous deck, this image was featured on the cover of the box, and she seems to embody Gaia, or Mother Earth, as well as Venus and her unimaginable beauty and love. And I took great care to bond with the cards, trusting a lot of what the priestess on YouTube had taught. I started seeing many signs and synchronicities about this time. For example, the week that the Tarot of Vampires deck arrived, I had been to the dermatologist to have 3 moles removed. And so I had 2 vampire-like cuts on my neck and 1 on my side. That was 3 in all. And I knew that 3 was the number of the Empress card. But the day that the cards came in the mail, Kristen came home from the thrift shop with 3 green coffee mugs, 3 stacking bowls, and 3 glass leaf-shaped platters. And about that time, I had 3 overwhelming mystical experiences, and that was 3 sets of 3 signs that I had. During this time, I kept consistent spiritual practices in my life. I walked in nature, meditated with incense. I now had altars on my desk at home and at work, and I was having regular card readings and conversations with the Empress. And I seemed to go through stages of greater and greater devotion and dedication to the Empress. And I researched some theories of personified deity online and looked into how different people with different beliefs interpreted these kind of mystical experiences. And so it was about this time that I felt the Empress tell me that my perennialism allows my Christianity and mysticism to mix. And I felt it was reasonable to believe that the divine feminine is in Jesus, and Jesus is in the divine feminine, and I'm in both, and both are in me. And I felt I could authentically take communion with my Christian fellowship and pray with my family, as I'd done before, and at the same time enjoy these mystical experiences. And this was my big breakthrough that really put my heart at ease. Now, the latest expansion came for me when I purchased a video tarot reading from the very same priestess whose videos had taught me to bond with the cards, as it turns out. And remarkably, in that reading, the Fool card and the 4 aces all turned up as if to demonstrate my kind of wild new spiritual beginnings. And 3 of the aces appeared in a row, like a winning poker hand. And the reader declared she'd never seen anything like that show up in 10 years of serving clients. And she was quite excited during that recording. She encouraged me to keep working with whatever guides or deities might show up. And this surprised me because I had not even considered working with more than one energy. If there had been more than one at all, it had just been in, one by one in a row. And so I was giving thought to this. And one night, when I was worried about being overcharged for a prescription and feeling nervous about that, I felt the familiar presence of Kuan Yin come through again. And it's a feeling for me that comes in slowly like the tide almost, and finally feels overwhelming like ocean waves. And I recognize the presence as different than my feeling at times in conversation with the Empress. So I started to realize that I could discern or differentiate between these feelings. Also, one evening as I was in conversation with the Empress, I felt a strong vibration in my forehead and in my solar plexus. And words seemed to come from an energy that identified itself as O. The messages seemed more cerebral, dealing with some of my theological questions about my experiences. And some days later, this presence came through more clearly for me as Odin, the Norse god, the bringer of the runes, and the one who accessed the meat of poetry and who disguises himself as a wanderer at times. And I also later learned that he's known for not revealing his identity immediately when connecting with people, that he often leaves questions open just to highlight the nature of learning as a journey with people. And I was amazed that I had this experience before I knew the pattern that he's known for. So I've started a collection of questions and answers on my new website from Odin that I'm using to help keep a record of this journey on the blended path. So I want to thank you for listening to my experiences, as strange as they may seem, with Personified Deity. And it's helping me to think back through these stages and see where I've come from. And not only helping me, I hope that my sharing might help someone else as well. Thank you so much.